Okay. So, in your organization, how do you follow the complete process of development and deployment of Spring Boot application? So, what steps you follow?
Yeah, for that we write the code,
Mm-hmm.
then we test it. We write its unit testing, and we see the code coverage. It should be more than 90%. Then we push the code,
Mm-hmm.
and once we push the code, then it goes to GitHub, and then from GitHub workflow is there. So
Mm-hmm.
there it is mentioned the whatever the goals it has to do. So from there it triggers the Jenkins for uh, continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD, and then Jenkins further prepares the image, a Docker image of the application, and then it further deploys it to AWS. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
this is the process we follow.
Okay. For CI/CD, have you used anything else apart from Jenkins?
Yeah, we also have used GitHub Actions.
Okay. So, what is the difference between these two, GitHub Actions and Jenkins?
Yeah, Jenkins is a third party, and we need some additional resource for this. So we need a separate infrastructure for this. So this is kind of additional burden for the developers. So if we are using GitHub Actions, then we don't have to configure any separate infrastructure, and whatever the GitHub we are using, so there itself in that platform itself, this GitHub Actions can run. So we can write a workflow. So that will be like a kind of YAML file. So we can write the job, and there all the steps are mentioned, and based on that steps, like I mean all the steps flows. So basically this GitHub Actions can build, test, and build a Docker image as well, and then again it can push the image to the Docker hub. So yeah, so this is like little bit of advantageous in case of we are using Git. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, do you know what is Spring Boot admin?
Admin, yeah, so this is a tool which we use for the monitoring and managing of Spring Boot applications. So using this, we can see the real-time data of a Spring Boot application, like it logs and some other personal data and all. So yeah, that is why we use Spring Boot admin.
Okay, and what about Actuator? That also does the same thing, right? How it is different?
Yeah, Actuator is like kind of inbuilt of a Spring Boot. So we can just add one dependency of Actuator uh, if we are using in Maven. So it will include the all the related jars for Actuator, and then we can further see the all health checks and application information metrics and all. But it is different in the sense like Spring Boot admin provides some like neat and clean UI provides there. We can see everything, but it is not the case with Actuator. So the major difference is like in Spring Boot admin uses the data like which has been provided by Actuator, and it displays the more complete monitoring experience, so that will be better. So all visualization and all is much more better than the what Actuator provides. So in Actuator we normally see normally like in the JSON or XML format, right? But in Spring Boot admin we can see all that nice way. That is what is the difference.
Okay, what is the difference between client side and server side discovery?
Yeah, this client and server side discovery we use based on the requirement of the application. So in client side service discovery, the client is responsible for determining the location of the service which it wants to call. But in case of server side discovery, we use API gateway like Joule or load balancer. So that takes care of finding the appropriate uh, service instance which we have to call. So whenever user makes a call, then the API gateway queries the service registry to get the service instance and routes the request to one of them wherever the less load is there. In client queries a service registry to find the available instances to the service which it needs. So then it makes the call directly to one of those instances. So this is the basically main difference between these two.
Okay. Okay. What are the disadvantages of using microservices?
Yeah, there are various disadvantages, like whenever in agile methodology, like the requests are keep on coming from the client, like we so initially we have decided to go like we have some modules, but in future like we get more requirements, right, that we have to add further more modules or something like that. So whenever it goes with the time, size of the microservices becomes huge and huge. So that is one problem. So how to monitor all of them, and how to log all the things, and checking the all the microservices its instances are running properly or not, right? So all these things are the challenges. So like managing multiple services can be more complex, and also whenever we have a small application, we should not go for microservices, we can go with monolithic in that case. Then another challenge I feel like, suppose uh, our application is going huge, and like since they are microservices, right, so they communicate with each other, so there might be the issue of latency. So whenever we have a network issue, so that can lead to the increase in the failure of some of the its modules or something like that. So however, we have the solution for that, like fault tolerance and all, but still that is we have to handle it. Like we have to see all the use cases, what might be the issues in future, and we have to fix it in advance. Then for testing point of view also, I would say like testing of microservices can be more complex compared to the any other monolithic application, and it requires testing not just the individual services but also the like integration testing of all that. So we have to integrate all and we have to test, so that is also kind of not an easy task. So yeah, so these are the some of the challenges which we can face while implementing microservices.
Okay. Okay. So in Spring Boot, what is the difference between put and patch?
Yeah, put and patch. So put we use for to completely replacing the resource. So suppose we have some user object and we have to update completely, all of its properties. So in that case we use put, but patch we use when we have to update partially. So in that case we go for patch. So suppose for the user we have like 4 or 5 properties are there, and we want to update out of 5 only 2 properties. So we will have only those 2 properties we can send, and only those 2 properties will be updated, and it will not delete also the other properties. So other properties will be intact and also it will update, but it is not in the case of put. So this is the difference between these two.
Okay. Okay. What are the response codes you are aware of?
Response codes, yeah, so we have 100, we have 200 in case of success, and we have 300 series. So for redirectional purpose, uh, we use that. Then we have 400 series. So for that we use for any client side error. Uh, then we have 500. So that is for the server side errors. So yeah.
Okay. Can you explain what is 404 in that?
So 404 happens whenever we put the wrong URL, or maybe earlier they are used to exist, but now it is not there anymore. So, or it has been changed. So, yeah, so in that scenario, we receive 404.
And how about 401?
Yeah, 401 is for the unauthorized request. So, suppose the request we are making, but that is not authorized, authentication is not done properly. In that case, we receive 401 unauthorized.
Okay. Have you worked on caching in Spring Boot microservices?
Yeah, I have worked on Redis and ESCase.
Okay. So, what all annotations we can use to implement this?
Yeah, annotations we use at the rate of cacheable, then at the rate of cache put, cache evict. So all this we use. So for that, first of all, in the in case of Maven in pom.xml, we add the dependency. Then in the configuration class, we add one annotations with at the rate of enable caching, and then uh, whatever the service class will be there, in that service class the methods will be having this cacheable, cache put, and cache evict. Yeah,
Okay. Can you explain these three annotations? Cacheable, cache put, and cache evict?
yeah, sure. So whenever we call the methods with at the rate of cacheable, then Spring checks if the result is already cached in the memory, and if it is cached, then it simply returns the whatever the result is, and if it is not cached, in that case it will execute the method and it will cache the result, and then it will return it. And in case of cache put, so in that annotation that is used to update the cache with the result of the memory result of the method call, so it will update it. And in case of cache evict, uh, so that will be used to remove the entries in the cache based on the whatever parameter we are passing. So yeah.
Okay. Suppose we want to inject the properties file in Spring Boot to a field. Okay. So, how will you do that?
Yeah, so that we can use, I think, at the rate of value annotation. So whatever the property we want to read, we can say at the rate of value, and then dollar that property name we can pass in that, and that will be injected to the corresponding variable. Okay.
Okay. Okay. What is the difference between controller advice and controller?
Controller advice and controller.
Yes.
A controller advice is used for global exception handling, and controller is like any HTTP request we make to the application. So that is the first layer where request comes in. So we can define a class as a controller, and we can give add controller indentation there, and there we can give the request mapping, and then whatever the get mapping, put mapping, or CRUD operations we can write within the methods, and we can perform the HTTP request. But controller advice is completely different. So that is for the exception handling. So controller advice that applies globally to multiple controllers. So all the exceptions will handle here. This controller will be applied to some specific controller, and for centralized exception for logging and all we use controller advice. Yeah, so these are the differences between these two.
Okay. So, in a Spring Boot application, suppose we have to load the data file and insert to database as a seed. So, what steps do you follow? How you do that?
If we have to load the data file, then what we do that in at the source main resources, we add data.sql or any SQL file, and in that all the insert queries will be there which we want to seed to the application. As soon as we run the Spring Boot application, it will automatically load. So yeah, so that is how we do it.
Okay, so it will automatically pick as soon as you will run. You don't have to do anything else. Anything you need to do in properties file.
Properties file, yeah, we have to do
Mm-hmm.
some initialization mode we have to do. So yeah, we have one property which we have to initialize and we have to enable it.
Okay. Mm. And what if we have the CSV file? Then how will you load it?
Yeah, in order to read it using the CSV file, we can read it through the buffer reader, and once it is read, then we can further map it to the object. Like we can create one entity class, and that entity class will have the fields of whatever we have in the CSV file. Suppose CSV file has like name and salary, so we can have the entity class with name and salary, and as soon as we read from through the buffer reader, then each object we can uh, set it to the, I mean, each item of the CSV we can set to the that class object properties, right? And once we have that object, then as usual through the JPA repository, we can uh, save the data. So we can use that JPA repository dot save, and that object we can pass and we can save it. So yeah,
Okay, okay. What is the difference between IOC and dependency injection?
IOC and dependency injection.
Yes.
Yeah, IOC stands for inversion of control. So that is basically a principle. Dependency injection is actual implementation of IOC. So in this principle, it says that we don't have to create the object. We just have to configure it and use it. And Spring Container will take care of creation of the objects. That is what is inversion of control. So basically IOC is a principle in which all the creation of objects and even the deletion whenever we don't need it, so all those things are taken care by the container, so we don't have to worry about it. But dependency injection is, like as I said, it is actual implementation of it. So this can be done mostly using three ways: constructor injection, setter injection, or field injection. So yeah, so through this way we can inject the whatever the uh, objects or beans are there in the container. So those things we can inject to the any other class. Yeah, so this is the difference between these two.
Okay. What is Spring Boot 3-layer architecture?
Spring Boot three layer architecture. Yeah, it's a presentation layer, service layer, and data access layer. So in the presentation layer, uh, we use at the rate of REST controller in case of REST APIs, or at the rate of controller in case of MVC applications. And yeah, we use at the rate of get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, and delete mapping for all the get, post, put, or delete operations or CRUD operations. So all the requests they come through this layer. So this is the topmost layer, and it is responsible for handling all the user request or HTTP and to manage the HTTP responses. And through this we interact with the service layer. So in the service layer, we write all the business logics. We can use at the rate of service annotation here. And further from the service layer, we can call to the repository layer or data access layer. So this repository layer is used for the interaction with the databases. Whatever the call we have to, or any kind of operations we have to perform to the databases, we do from the this data access layer. So yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Where and how we provide the active profile in Spring Boot?
Yeah, that we can do through application.properties or YAML file. We can simply say Spring profile active, and then if it is production, then we can give production. If it is QA, we can give QA. It is dev, we can give dev. So that is one way. We can also give it through the command line argument also. So some profile active, so something like that. We have the command. I actually don't remember the exact command, but that is another way. And then we also have uh, through program. Through program also we can do it. So through program, new Spring application we can give, and the class name we can give, and then that application dot set some property comes after that, set profile, and there we can give, and then application dot run we can give. So that is also one way. Yeah, so these are the ways I'm aware of.
Okay, okay. How do you handle security in Spring Boot application?
Yeah, security we can handle using Spring Security, we can do it. So we can add that dependency in case of Maven for Spring Security, Spring Boot Starter Security, and it will download the all related jars. And in the properties file, we can give the security username and password. So we will have a class, and in that class we can annotate with enable web security, and then there we can add like ant
Okay, okay,
matchers
that's
and all.
fine. So, have you worked with JWT?
Yeah, I have worked with JWT.
Okay, can you explain that?
Okay, so JWT stands for JSON Web Token, and it has basically three components. One is header, then payload, then signature. So header will have like some algorithm and type as JWT we pass. Then in payload, we will have like whatever the payload we want to send, let's say name, then some subject or something, or also it will have the like claims. So like whatever the permissions this user has, like it is create, edit, or whatever it is. And then signature also will be like some 266 bit secret key will be there. So as soon as we log in, so it calls the create token method. So that basically accepts the all the claims of the payload, and along with the sub username and the whatever the issue date is there and expiration date, so everything it adds, and then it generates the token. And after that, again, whenever the user sends the token back, so it we have a validate token method. So using that, we validate the whatever the token has come, and we check there like if token is expired or the credentials are correct. So everything we check there, and if everything is fine, then only we allow the user to log in. So yeah.
Okay, so how you manage JWT token as it like expires after some time, right? So, how that works?
Yeah, so basically we have two things. One is access token and one is refresh token. So access token, let's say it will be for normally 1 hour, and refresh token will be, let's say, more than that, maybe 3 hours or something. So if the access token has expired, then we need to call another API with the refresh token. So then we provide the new access token as well as the new refresh token to the user. So suppose refresh token has also expired, then we have already provided the client ID, right? So and along with that, secret key also. So using that, the user needs to generate the new token. So yeah, so that is how it happens.
Okay, fine. Okay, what is CSRF? Cross site request forgery.
Yeah, CSRF is a type of attack, we can say. So that is done without the consent of the user. So suppose the user has logged into some browser and he or she has authenticated there. So it is a type of attack that kind of tricks an authenticated user into performing some unwanted action. So yeah, so that is what is CSRF. So that basically we can use in our uh, Spring Boot application. So we can enable the CSRF protection using like http.csrf uh, and we can give their like whoever we want to give the access and whoever we don't want to give the access. So we can give the ant matchers there, and like we can give some URL over there, like is in the Spring Boot application, whatever the URL is there. Along with that, if in that URL some specific pass, some public URL will be there, so we can allow that to be navigated by any user. But we can give apart from that any request, we can give authenticated, so it will authenticate apart from those public URLs. Any other URL will be authenticated. So that is what is the CSRF protection we do.
Okay, so in Java 8, why default method has been introduced?
Yeah, so in Java 8, default method has been introduced. uh, in that we can have one dummy implementation, and that dummy implementation further can be used to the classes which is implementing that interface. So the idea is that interface will have the default implementation of that, but the classes which are implementing that, it is up to them if they want to override that or not. So if they want to override it, then they can override, otherwise the whatever the default method has been added to the interface, that can be used. Basically they are useful when we want to add functionality to an existing interface while maintaining the backward compatibility. So yeah.
Okay, what is predicate in functional interface?
Yeah, predicate is one of the type of functional interface in which this predicate just sends the result as boolean. So whatever the calculation or whatever the implementation it does, so it just gives the boolean result. So we have a test method inside that predicate interface. So for example, let's say we have a string, and that we want to check its length. If it is greater than 5, then its a response we can gather as a predicate, and then once that response the test, and whenever we pass any string in that, so it will just give us the boolean result, like whether the length is greater than 5, then it will say true. If the length is not greater than 5, then it will just simply return false. So yeah, that's the predicate is.